what's happened to you as a band, you know, what's changed for the band, but also the work that you're doing for the studio. Obviously, you've renovated it quite recently, haven't you?
Band-wise, we were on our first proper UK tour when all this kicked off, so we had to cancel all these shows. So obviously, as a band, we lost out on ticket sales and merch sales and all sorts, and then we just it kind of felt like everything came to a halt. Obviously, it did, but we were like, right, well, that's kind of ruined our plans. Obviously, everyone's health is the main priority, isn't it? But it was a little bit gutting because you planned for months and months. We'd spent months doing artwork and contacting venues and trying to push tickets, and then it all just felt like it was for nothing, didn't it, a little bit? And then so basically
it kind of left us feeling like, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Because it's like Imogen said, when we go for, you know, when we have these meetings where we sit down and we plan through a load of things, you know, we tend to execute everything that we plan to do, don't we? So it's like to get halfway through something and not be able to finish it was a bit like, right, well, what do we do now, kind of thing, you know?
So obviously, because we run the studio as well, it's like as soon as the lockdown hit, obviously we couldn't go to work, we couldn't do band stuff, so I tried to volunteer. I tried to volunteer for the NHS volunteering service, and I went to a local care home and just said, if there's anything you want me to do, like running food packages or anything. But neither of them got back in touch with me. So I was just like, I want to help in some way. Like, what do I do? So we started we basically started a series called Covers for Our Carers, where we were donating the money via GoFundMe to the NHS Charities Together charity. And I basically said to everyone, what covers do you want me to do? So I was just recording covers in the shed behind James's house, and I was just posting those, and people were donating. I think we've not announced it yet, or we've not posted that it's ended yet, but because we didn't really put like a definite end date, but we raised £330, which is quite nice. I know it's only a small like drop in the ocean, but it's still something. So that's what we did band wise, and then we've only just started getting back into the swing of having socially distanced band recordings, haven't we? And we've had the lads over a couple of times now to work on some new songs and stuff.
Poses its own challenges, doesn't it?
Oh, it's really hard when you love each other this much. It's really difficult to not like all just embrace as soon as you meet.
Yeah.
But so it's been a bit weird as a band, but we're just trying to make the most of it, really. And then studio wise, we
moved in on the 1st of March to the new
signed our
room.
lease and we started knocking walls down on the 1st of March. And then
a bit like, well, what does this mean for what we can do? So we made sure that we were keeping up with government guidelines and all that kind of stuff, and found out that construction could carry on through lockdown, and the fact that me and Imogen were isolating together anyway, so it meant that we could come up and carry on doing building work on the studio, kind of isolating together and just picking up bits and pieces as and when we needed them, you know. And so it wasn't the end of the world for the studio, was it? Because we could actually dedicate quite a lot of time to the building process, couldn't we?
It kind of gave us 4 months, whereas we might have been trying to crack everything off in 1 month before so that we didn't miss out on customers. It were like, well, we don't have any customers anyway, so we might as well use the time and spend like even more time on things that we might not necessarily have been able to before. So we managed to hand build like so much stuff, didn't we, that we might have otherwise had to have pay for, because we had the time to do it. And
because of that as well, like one thing that we've always wanted to do, we've always been interested in the environmental impact of a studio, of building a studio and all that kind of stuff. So we, right from the get-go, we wanted to use greener materials anyway, you know, like sustainably sourced wood, and reusing
eco-friendly rock wool and stuff like that. Yeah,
eco-friendly rock wool, and you know, like kind of upgrading stuff as and where we can. Upcycling.
We were kind of like taking old furniture and making it look fancy and stuff like that, and using old equipment as furniture rather than buying rather than going to IKEA and buying new stuff, we thought we'll just make do with what we have. And I was on Facebook Marketplace and we're on eBay, and we managed to get lots of stuff that now people are going, oh wow, what's this? And it's like, well, we got that for 20 quid off eBay. Like it's old that, but it looks cool.
Yeah, and it's like, I think lockdown kind of helped with that, didn't it? Because there were certain suppliers that we couldn't get stuff from, or there were places that were shut down and all that kind of stuff. So it was like, we kind of had to be a little bit more creative with our options. But I think we've got something really unique off the back of it now.
What work do you do in the studio? It's based in Blackburn, Lancashire, isn't it?
Yeah. So we're a recording studio, but we're also a creative hub. And what we mean by that is that we don't just offer recording, as in people to get the tracks recorded. We offer music videos and graphic design, so like logo creation. And we wanted to provide one place where artists can come and they don't just have the track recorded and then get sent off into the big wide world to just try and find someone who's not going to give them a bad quality product, or try and work their own. We've basically vetted different freelancers, haven't we, who we now work with, who we trust to consistently produce quality work. So if an artist comes to us, it's like, come and get your track recorded with me and James, and then you could go and get your logo designed with Amy, or you could get your video recorded with Nathan, or it's just one of those where we're kind of cutting out the middleman, and the more services you get from us, the more we'll bring the price down.
Yeah, the more money that and the end user is saving, but also we know from being in a band ourselves how stressful it can be when you decide, right, okay, in 2 months' time we're going to release our single, and 2 months sounds like a lot of time, but actually when you don't know any artists, when you don't know any videographers, when you need to find a studio to record it all, that 2 months goes really bloody quickly, doesn't it? So it's like, you've got to then try and figure out where you're going to source these people from, how much money it's going to cost you, where you're going to, and the most important thing that no one ever tells you how to do is where you're going to recoup those costs back from, because a lot of studios and a lot of videographers and stuff like that will perfectly happily take the money off you, and I'm not saying you don't get a good product, because I think you do off a lot of people. There are many people out there that give really good services, but no one ever tells you how to make the money back. And we were like, well, hang on, if our bands come to us and they get a really good quality product and we can give them advice and help on how to make that product pay for itself, then surely they'll want to come back. It's just, it's,
For instance, we've got an artist who we've been working closely with before lockdown, and now that lockdown's over, and we kept in contact throughout lockdown because he was doing a lot of live streams and he was asking advice and stuff like that. But he is a young lad. He'll come to the studio, he'll get his track recorded, and then he'll get it put on CD, and then he'll go busking to sell the CDs to make money to come back to the studio to record the next track. So he's kind of got this really good system going, where he's got this little cycle of busking and recording in the studio, busking and recording in the studio. And it's like, we feel like he's also having singing lessons with me, and he gets James to drum on his tracks. And it's like, we feel we've got a lot to offer a lot of artists who want to be able to get quality services, but don't want to necessarily have to go to a lot of different places. It's like we are like almost developing him as an artist, teaching him singing, recording his tracks. We've done videos for him, we've done his logo, we've done his artwork, and he's buzzing. And it's like we just want a few. I think we the goal is to have a few more people like him who kind of trust us to provide quality work on all of those different services, because we don't want to end up getting known as a jack of all trades, a master of none, because we've got multiple masters of different trades working under the same umbrella.
That's the thing, innit? It's like, and that's where the freelancer comes in. But I think for us, it was about how do we get or how do we help musicians who want to do it full time, who want to become professionals in the field? How do we get them from hobbyists who just do it at weekends to professionals that do it, 7 days a week? And it's like, that's something that we've spent a lot of time on coming up with marketing strategies for. It's also something that, the reason why our band and our studio work really well together is because there's a lot of theories that we'll try and test out with our band first. So by the time someone comes to the studio and actually pays for one of our services, you're comfortable in the fact that actually this has been tested out on our own band, and the only reason we're giving you any of this advice or any of this service is because we know it works. We'll never give someone advice or service that we don't know will work properly for them.
You're essentially being mentors for these people. What advice would you give to musicians, like you said, going from a amateur to a jobbing musician? And in particular, what advice would you give for them to survive in terms of their career through lockdown? What have you been doing to try and survive through lockdown? I know you've mentioned the raising the money, but how does a musician stay afloat?
I think ultimately it's about adapting to the different the different scenarios that you find yourselves in. And it's like, so there's all sorts of things that artists could be doing throughout lockdown, or if whilst they can't do live music to make money. And it's things like you could be recording things from home and setting up a Patreon and really working on your socials and trying to get people more involved in your journey as an artist so that they want to support you. And it's just essentially you're just trying to build a little community of like a fan base of friends who want to support you, because ultimately, like, an artist is nothing without people who pay to come and see you or pay for your products. I think it's more a case of, I suppose it's dependent on each individual artist, isn't it? But generally, we'd say just properly research the different avenues that you can go down, that you don't have to be performing live events to be making that money from your music.
Even stuff like merch. If you've got a really good merch game going on, and you even if you don't design it yourself, even if you have an artistic friend who you can get in touch with, or even if you pay an artist to design something for you, there are definitely ways that you can get merch printed and you can sell it for a profit. And as long as you stay on top of it and you're constantly bringing out new stuff, there are ways and means of making money through stuff like that. And generally as well, people do want to help smaller artists. They just don't know how, and smaller artists don't know how to ask for the help. So there seems to be this gap in the middle, doesn't there, where there's people that want to help and there's people who need the help but don't know how to get it, and we're trying to help close that gap a little bit. And
I think it can be something as so simple as just having your socials properly sorted so people know where to buy your stuff from.
It's
like if someone goes on your page, they need to know what what they can do to help you. And it's not just okay. Sometimes you go on artist pages and they're saying, oh, I don't know why things aren't working, or I don't know why no one's done this or whatever. And it's like, well, I've gone on your page, I can't find a link to your merch store. I can't even find a link to your videos without looking, like searching for it. It's like, make stuff easily accessible, because people can be lazy, can't they? They just want to see it straight away.
It's not just that. It's like, so from my point of view, I'm heavily dyslexic.
Yeah.
So I don't want to sit there and read through a load of stuff.
Yeah.
I want a photo or a video, or I want a link to click and I'm there. And it's got to be simple this day and age, or else you've got a few seconds to grab someone's attention when they're on your page and to potentially sell them something. And if you don't follow that up, then you've lost out big time. So it's those little things that all add up, I think.
See, you guys are based in Blackburn, which is not particularly an affluent place. I'm from near Blackburn. I was brought up there, so we probably have quite similar backgrounds, and
Yeah.
with it being a less affluent place, music, like many things in the arts, the theatre, can be full of maybe the more affluent people because they can afford to maybe not make as much money. What can be done to help musicians who come from these poorer backgrounds to get into the industry, to be able to stay in it?
I think that's where like charities like youth music come into their own, because it's like so for instance they've just released a incubator fund to try and get small businesses like ourselves to take on young people to help give them a place within the industry, within the music industry. And I think it's one of those, we don't have, I don't want to get too political, but you know, we're not the arts are, you know, a lot of people like frown upon it, and it's not funded in the same way other areas are.
The amount of times that we've spoken to people and they've said, "When are you going to get a real job?" is unbelievable.
It's just, it's a bit silly.
So I think there's a view in society, and I think from my point of view as well, I've seen this through education as well. And I think the whole kind of education system needs reform, which is a completely different thing, isn't it? But because I think everybody is pushed towards a standard 9-5, and this is how you earn money. And it was only actually because, you know, we come from families who have self-employed people in them or musicians in them, that we kind of saw from a young age that actually you can make money off your own back. And, you know, if we have a dream and we work hard enough for it, there is a chance that we can earn a living from it. And I think we've been really lucky in that respect, that we've had people there to kind of, you know, help us out. So we're kind of trying to do the same thing, aren't we? We're trying to pass that on, you know, like what goes around comes around. So we're trying to pass that on to some of the musicians who we see working really hard, but, you know, feel like they're just peddling water.
I think we obviously as a business, we're doing our bit to try and create opportunities for young people. But obviously we're hoping to take advantage of the incubator fund with youth music to take on an employee between the ages of 16 and 25 who wants to work in music, and hopefully that can be like a full-time position. But I think obviously it stems a lot deeper than what can people like us do.
Yeah, this is the thing.
Right in school, when you're made to feel like music is and only will ever be a hobby.
Yeah.
And
it's like the musical instruments come out for 10 minutes a week and then they go away, but you do 5 hours of maths a week.
Yeah.
And that, to me, doesn't sit well.
It sounds like you've had quite a productive lockdown. Do you think you've had a good lockdown?
It's awful to say.
I know, I hate it. I hate that. To be honest, Dan, I hate that question, because there's so many people who've suffered so much during this, and you feel a bit guilty and smug being like, well, actually, it's been great. But to be honest, my mental health is in a really good position for, like, in terms of what it was before lockdown, or at the start of lockdown. It was pretty bad because I've ended some friendships with some toxic people, but ultimately we've got a lot out of lockdown. It's given us the time to ground ourselves, sort out our studio properly, you know, work out what we want to do with the band, put a proper schedule together. It's actually been quite good for us, but you feel terrible saying it, because you know what I mean?
It's been a bit of a weird one for me, hasn't it? Because I've been like we said, from the start of lockdown, we started the renovation, and that's been my main project, to be perfectly honest, throughout lockdown. And as lockdown has started to ease and we've come to the end of the project, I've started focusing on, you know, like our band's recordings and getting myself, I call it gig ready, even though we're not doing any gigs for a while for obvious reasons. I like to be well practiced and well rehearsed. And there was actually a point a couple of weeks ago where I kind of sat there and I was like, I don't feel good enough for this, and my mental health really started to suffer because I've been focusing so hard on something for 5 months straight with barely any days off and stuff like that. When the pressure was finally relieved, I felt like I didn't deserve what we'd built together. And it's a really strange position to be in, because it's the first time in my life where I've kind of felt like that after I've come to the end of a project. But yeah, it's something that I've had to kind of deal with.
Is it almost like an imposter syndrome sort of feeling?
I said that to them.
Yeah,
I think it is. I think we both have it.
Yeah,
quite bad.
and I think it's one of them, because again, I think because there has been so much negativity throughout lockdown for obvious reasons. I think because so many people have lost so much, for me to have gained something so significant in my life, I felt really bad for it. Do you know what I mean? And I felt like I like, why me? Why do I deserve this?
Well, I suppose it goes back to the earlier question where I asked, how can we help less privileged musicians? It could be the fact it's part of your background. I feel it all the time. I know a lot of people who've come from our background who feel it all the time when they get a bit of success their way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I think it's important to try and I get it quite a lot where because I'm quite active on socials, I get young girls messaging me saying you're such an inspiration. And I think I think how you portray yourself on social media is so important to young people as well.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of in a position now where we can be like, look, we followed our dreams, we did what we wanted to do. We've not come from big rich families. We've just worked really hard and we had a dream, and it's happened for us. We worked together and we've had success from it, and people kind of see that. And you get a lot of people who hate on you because you get people who think, oh well, you get the people that you've been to school with who kind of go don't like the fact that you've come from the same place.
I think it's people that have already given up on the dreams.
Yeah,
it's people who have had a dream and either had that dream beaten out of them via the corporate machine, if that's what you want to call it, or at some point in their life, someone has told them to give up on the dream and get a real job.
But you get a lot of people like that. But then you get, like, for every one person who's like that, you've got 10 people who are saying, thank you so much for inspiring me, like you're making me want to follow my dreams, like. And it's just, I think it's just important, if you are building up something in the way that me and James have built this up and built the studio up and built the band up, I think it's important to be quite honest on socials about the work that you've put in and how you got from A to B, kind of thing.
And also use the negativity as fuel. That's what I've done. So like I've had some bad experiences in the past. People that I trusted saying stuff that like give up and all that kind of stuff, and then I kind of used it as positive energy. So I kind of took a negative comment, and then I'd go and do something creative with those emotions and with those feelings, and then I always came back with something better. So it didn't matter how negative that person was being, I was always going to come out on top, because I was always turning something negative into something positive. And the more negative they were being, the more positive I was getting. I mean, or the better things were getting for me. So, and a lot of people don't understand that, do they? And they'll fire hate at you, and you just get bigger and stronger and more creative, and then they're like, how the hell did that happen? And it's like, well, thanks to you telling me to quit and all that kind of stuff.
It does fuel you, doesn't it?
It does, big time. Yeah,
obviously you guys as mentors with your studios are going to give a lot of lessons to these musicians, but what lessons have you learned during lockdown?
I've learned that you soak up the energy that you surround yourself with, and I was surrounded with a lot of negativity, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Before lockdown, and over lockdown, I kind of cut ties with a lot of people, and it's when you kind of get rid of the things in your life that are. Obviously, I know it's a lot harder for some people. Like if you're in a job you don't like or whatever, it's not. Or if you've got family members that you don't get on with, it's not as easy as just cutting ties with them or quitting your job. And I get that, but I think it's so important if you've got anything in your life that's holding you back, you holding you back from happiness. Not even just like holding you back from financially. It's like holding you back from feeling happy when you wake up. It's like work out what that is. Like write it down. Write on a piece of paper. Why am I unhappy? Work out what those things are, and then take steps to kind of try and sort that out. And I think that's kind of what I did, isn't it? I literally just wrote down on a scrap of paper, like, why am I unhappy? These things that make me unhappy. One of them was like my body, and it's like I have you noticed, James? I've started wearing more like pretty stuff recently. I've stopped wearing like joggers and a hoodie because I felt like my body didn't deserve to wear nice things. And it's like, actually, if anything, I'm bigger now than I was at the start of lockdown, but I feel happier with my body now than I did before because I've tried to change my mindset instead of my weight. And this has gone off on a bit of a tangent, but I think what I'm trying to say is it's just so important to kind of work out what makes you happy and try and get rid of the things that don't add to you, just don't bring you any kind of joy in your life.
I think it's about setting goals. So for me, to be perfectly honest, so for me, I kind of decided when I was about 15, 16 what I wanted out of life. I was like, I don't care how ridiculous this sounds or, you know, anything like that. I know what I want. And I think for me, I mean, there's still a lot of plans that I have that I don't tell Imogen yet because until we get to the point where she needs to know about them, it's like I feel like they're a little bit too ridiculous at the level that we're at the moment. But it's one of those things. It's like right from the get-go, I've aimed high, and because my outlook is if you aim really high and then you miss, then you've still climbed quite a way. Whereas if you don't aim high at all, like it's just never going to happen for you, is it? So for me, it's about coming up with a goal and then working back from that and going, right, okay, this is my all-time dream. How do I make that happen? Well, to get there, I need to make these steps happen, and breaking it up like that. Like I said, I'm dyslexic, so I don't like writing stuff down a lot. I don't like writing lists, so I draw pictures instead. I'll draw boxes and write a little thing inside it, you know, like my ultimate goal, and then another box down from that that's like, right, what's the next step underneath that, and then underneath that, and then before you know it, 50 boxes later, you're where you are now, but you've got a clear next step, and you go, right, okay, I need to, you know, get better on my drum kit or something like that, and you know where you're going from there, rather than just kind of hoping that at some point you're going to cross paths with someone and something's going to happen, because I think that's quite a big misconception as well.
Well, thank you both for your time today. Best of luck, obviously, with the band Novustory, and best of luck with the studio. Do check it out. Thank you both for your time.
Thanks so much. We're honoured too.